Hi guys, it's been a long time, hasn't it? COVID here in Victoria put a dent in things, but we managed to go through. And what we're going to do today to start off with is we're going to have some demonstration and a bit of lesson in how to do certain shapes. We got quite a few shapes here that I've done and worked through on my own here through the COVID. I wasn't allowed to have anybody in here or anybody coming in or whatever, but anyway, you'll see what I mean as we go through the DVD. Okay, so we're going to start off with, if you remember, probably 5, 6, 7 months ago, we were talking about this bad bonnet for a Jag. And what I got here is I made 3, 4, 5 samples, and they're all in stages. So I can't literally show you all of it because it will take forever. It's probably a 5-hour panel. But what I've done is I've made different panels, and I'll show you the stages, and you can clearly see what's happening even though it's done this way. So we start off with the front. As you remember, this has been punched in real hard, and it's come up a little bit here. Let's put a slight hollow down there, but we allow for that. And I want to show you the panel which is almost finished. Okay, so there's the panel in question. All I need to do is to put the little reverse here so that it drops in a little bit better. You'll see in a minute what I mean. And then I've got a little bit of cut out here so I can put it over the top. But the main thing I want to show you is the mouth, which you probably see by now. It's already set up, and there's a certain measurement between the mouth, and I'll show you and explain to you what you need to do to obtain that difference, because otherwise you won't be able to fit the mold. So we now know, even from this damaged panel and other panels that I looked at, we got a 640 millimeter between this point and that point. And you need to keep a watch on that, because the more you block here, the panel wants to shrink, the panel wants to close in. And if you don't watch that, what you end up doing is that you shorten that distance. So, one thing that I like to stress is that there's no shrinking whatsoever done on this panel. There's no one shrink. So let's put that on top. There we go. It's over the top. It'll fit a lot better once I've cut that old one off. But as you can see, I'll get the cameraman to come down here. You can see that, just have a look here, and the opposite side you can see that that's going to go in nicely because it's over the top, yeah? So you can see here. Go right up the top there, that's it. And maybe if the cameraman can come up and look from down here, you can see that it's going to go straight in once the old one is cut off. Okay, so as you all know, stretch and keep wheeling, stretch and keep wheeling. But there's going to start to turn a little bit and put some shape in it, but you might wonder how I managed to keep it to that shape. Meaning checking where this is as far as that goes, because remember, I am blocking and I'm wheeling and I'm blocking and I'm wheeling, and as I mentioned before, this would like to come in. So in order for me to check shape, how much shape to go through here and where I'm at, I've actually got another bonnet. I placed some CSC at the bottom of it, and I got myself 1 full can of filler or Bondo, and I've made this. This has come out, this is Bondo, and it's come out of a good bonnet. I put a reinforcement steel here, and I was only after this part. Now, by my blocking and my wheeling and my blocking, because I kept blocking and stretching and blocking and stretching, as I mentioned before, I needed to know where I was at all the time. So what I did is I kept using this and place it in there like so. that would automatically tell me if I needed more shape behind there and how much more stretching I needed to do through here in order to get this correct. You can see it here. I'll try it again. There we go. You can see it here, that it's the right shape. And more importantly, if I turn that back now, here, that's what this blue line is represent. This is where it will not go in if there's not enough shape through here. And of course, once I add that, with another dolly that I'll show you later, I start turning it. And turning it and stretch it, turning it and stretch it, turning it and stretch it until I got to this point here. Right there. Now, there might be some adjustment, but believe me, it'll be very, very minimal. And as I mentioned before, this measurement from this yellow line to this yellow line is exactly the same as the other one. And having said that, any minor adjuster can be done with a little bit more stretching. So, what do? To sum it up, we start blocking and keep stretching. Because remember, when you block this, the panel wants to go like this and shorten. So we blocked and stretch, blocked and stretch, block and stretch until we arrive to a point where I can put that thing in, check it, and then with another tool turn it over. Now, as I mentioned before, this is fitting away from the panel. But I get the camera to come around for a minute. See this gap here? Once I lift this, once I stretch this part of the bonnet up, you can see it's going up. That should drop in quite nicely, just like so. So once this is up, that'll drop in. Okay, now, this is one of them. So I'm gonna put that down and show you something else. Now we're on to the return. I got a paper pattern here, and I've got one here and a couple over there, and they're all in different stages, so I'll be able to explain to you and show you what I've done to achieve that shape. So, let's start off with the paper pattern. And as you can see here, I cut it. This was originally like so, straight. But I've cut it so you can understand exactly what I'm talking about. In order for this valley or this return to come around, so I'm going to put my finger on it, and I want you to watch what happens here. If I put my finger on this valley and I turn it, you can see that that's opening up and lifting. See that? Now, once it's straight, the paper is closed. I should have perhaps put a little bit of tape, but I figured I do it this way because you can see it better. That was straight. Now I'm putting my hand here and I'm bending this around like so, and it's lifting and opening. What that means, it means you need to stretch it here. But that's only part of it. I don't think you're going to just achieve what I'm trying to tell you just by stretching that. And I'll show you with all the samples that I've made. Now here, as this is coming around, you can also see here, have a good look at that. As this is coming around, this is shrinking. See that? So you need to do a little bit of shrinking on this part of the headlight, just there. And I'll show you again, I'll put it back straight and show you again without touching it. See? It wants to shrink. Right, so I've got the center of the radius, or the return you could call it, roughly where I wanted to weld it. I've got the sweep across here, and I've got this line where this panel is turning under, like so. So we make a blank out of this, And now I'm going to take the paper off and show you the blank on the other side. I made one of each. So I'm taking this off. I put it down here for the time being. And now we move on the other side with the blank. This is the blank. All right, so what have we got on the blank? On the blank we've got the same marking that I've got on the pattern. Roughly where I want to weld it, the middle of the return, the length of the panel, and where it's turning downwards, with all the marking of the profiles. Now if you want to do this exercise at home, after this video, you can have the video running and you can do this exercise, and all you need to do, I give you the measurement here, but then what you need to do is to send me an email and I will send you the paper pattern and the profiles. So this blank is 280 across the front and 240 across the back, over 1500 millimeters. I'll get the cameraman to check this out, to point it out. The blank is 1500 millimeters long, being and 280 at this end and 240 at that end. And as I said before, if you're interested and you want to have a go at this, I will send you the profiles and a paper pattern. Just send me an email and you can have a go at it, just to try and see and understand what's happening. So I'm going to position the pattern right where it's going to be. I'm going to get the cameraman to step back and literally have a look the panel as it is. You can quite see already, here's our return going that way. And here, all you need is to fill it by wheeling or hammering, and you need to release this end a little bit. Or, there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can just start the return on a pipe. Just start it. Don't go too far, because if you bend it too far, you won't be able to work here. You can either do it that way, or you can put that on a wheel and initiate the return that way by slightly bending down. Here we are on the pipe first, and obviously you've got to mark that on the other side, because otherwise you end up making the wrong side. So all you need to do is to mark it, and when I say bending it, I'm only talking that much, just a little bit, okay, just that much. I won't go all the way, but that's what you need to do, just a slight bend here, so it allows you to work on this area. If you go too far up, as I mentioned before, you won't be able to work here. Or you could go on the wheel, and I'll show you that on the wheel as well. Okay, now we're on the wheel, and again, I'm only going to do it from this side, but remember, you must mark this on the other side, otherwise you make the wrong side. But all I do is put that on the wheel, and I bend up a little bit and run it through. Follow that line, again at the back, okay? You just pull up a little bit and follow that line, like so. Okay, you'll put that slight curve in it. Once you've got that slight curve going up, you then got to start. And now we're going to go on the other sample, and we're going to show you what's happening. So, we got the blank, we marked it, we screwed a line down the bottom, depends on which side you're doing. You go on the wheel, you lift up slowly, or on the pipe, and that's your start. Okay, we got sample number 1, and we're back on this side. I've done, as I said before, I've done both. So there's the sample number 1. And all I did there, as I just mentioned, I put that across on the wheel and I shrunk it here. You can clearly see, I get the camera to zoom in, I shrunk it here, just there. Okay, that's already starting to come down. Long way to go yet, but just be patient. There we go, we're on the line, and we need to bring all this down. So what you then do, you then start working on the bulbar shape. It's called the main shape. You need to put the main shape in. So as you can see from the line here, it's a little bit wider here. I'll get the camera to follow it. A little bit wider here, because there's more shape at the front, and it narrows down to the back. You see, and that's because if you look at the panel, it's got shape here and less shape at the bottom. Now we need to put the shape here by blocking or wheeling, but you need to be pulling down. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go on the wheel and show you what I mean. Right, we're on the wheel now, so I'm going to put a little bit of pressure on there, not too much. Don't go too much pressure, because there's a blending involved, and if you got too much pressure, you're never going to do the blends. Now I got my hand here and my hand there, and what you must not do, I strongly believe that you must wheel the panel this way. Don't bend it, because if you bend it, you're not going to know where the shape is going, because remember, when you bend it, the shape disappears, and you might have the chance to put too much shape. So all I do is I just start at the front, too much pressure, start at the front and pull down. Pull down. Then come up a little bit more, pull down. Come up a little bit more and pull down. A bit more and pull down. And pull down. And pull down. Here you go straight. It's very close to the reverse, but if you remember, I said don't bend it too much, because the top wheel is going to dig into there. So you just do that, and you pull down a little bit at the front, and on and on and on. Keep it nice and easy. Keep away from this edge. Don't go there with the wheel. This will shrink itself while you're pumping this up. If you shrink too much here, you can do a little bit of shrinking, a little bit, right on the edge if you want to, in case you do jump out. But if you shrink too much here, you're going to get the shape. Yes, you're going to get around, but the panel, we don't need the panel to go around that way. We need the panel to come up and come out straight. And before I go any further, I'll show you on the profiles. Okay, this is the front profile, and I'll show you where it goes. Number 2, right there. Okay, I said to you, you can do some shrinking on the edge here, which will be here somewhere, but you don't want to do too much, because if you shrink it here, yes, you will go around, but as you're pumping this up, if you look at this profile, it doesn't go around there. It comes straight. See? Look. The panel is not coming around, and you will get that if you shrink it. So you just keep wheeling in this fashion. You can see the mark in there like I got on the blank, and pull down. As you pull down and using the right wheel, you'll be able to keep this, let's call it flatter, okay? If you use a sharp wheel, it's only common sense that it's going to roll it around. You don't want that. You want to use a fairly flat wheel and pull down. By pulling down, you put shapes and you keep the thing flatter, okay? So that's why I'm not shrinking. When I say don't shrink, you can have a little bit of a shrink, just on the edge, just a little bit, that it can always be released if it's too much. But what you don't want to do is shrink it too far in, because then you're just making a ball, and that's not what we want. So I'm going to go back on the wheel and do a little bit more wheeling and show you how I get to that stage. All right, so this is nowhere near finished, but I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to put the pattern in there, and as you can see, the reverse wants to be deeper, and that will lift this up. See that? There's a mile to go yet, a mile. But don't forget that we just started the return. We haven't worked it. We haven't done anything to it. We just, can I say, we formed it a little bit, okay? So once the return goes down deeper, you can see that with a little bit of wheeling through here, right there, filling that in, this is gonna drop a little bit and we're maintaining the shape that we want. So I'm gonna do a little bit more wheeling and then go on the next one. So, we'll put it back there. And as I said, not too much pressure. Pull down. Then come up a little bit more. Blend this thing in. Don't just stop on one spot. Pull down all the time. Pull down all the time. And fill that in. Pull down. And on and on. When you get to this point, you then stop pulling down and just wheel in there. Now I'm going to change hand to get the camera to move around the other side. Okay, now here we are going to wheel it the same manner, but notice my point, notice my tracks are here. I've done wheel there, but I'm pulling straight because this part of the panel is fairly straight. There's a little bit of pulling down, but very, very little. And I'll blend it in with the front. Okay. Now you can do this on the hammer, and I got one made with a hammer, and I'll show you in a minute what it does. So you just keep doing this. Now, what's going to happen, of course, is there you're pumping this up, it's going to help your return as well, because as that's come up higher, the return gets deeper, but we haven't touched the return yet. We're just going to keep doing this. And of course, if you're not sure what to do, I show you another way to check it and keep yourself from making a from making a mistake. So you can see now, even at these very early stages, now this is already coming around too far, but when we bend the return again, that'll straighten. Okay, so when I bend the return there a little bit, when I go and bend the return, that'll straighten out. I'm going to go on the next stage and show you what happens after this. Okay, this is the number 2 sample. We're back in this way, in this side now. You can see my little bit of shrinking through here, and what I've done here, I've actually done it with the hammer. Same principle. Look, if you I get the camera to go really zoom in, you can actually see the hammer marks all the way through, and as you can see, they are thinning down towards the back. Okay, so this is the second sample, but you might say to yourself, what's that? Well, don't worry, because when I bend this up here, notice that I wheel it or hammer it in that fashion, like I said to you. I pull down and pull down. Well, that's going to give you that any time, but when we dip in the return, that'll flatten off. So, matter of fact, if I push that down very slowly, you can actually see it coming in. Watch the shape coming in. Watch the shape coming in. See that? Okay? You can clearly see the shape coming in here. Okay? And don't forget that this is also damaged through here. this hollow, this bonnet is hollow right there. This damage goes when it got punched, but we know we're somewhere out there. Okay, this is the second one. So you've got to keep working on the spine. Let's call this the spine all the way through to the back. Get your shape, your main shape going. Keep it relatively straight towards the back as I showed you before, and work accordingly. But about this time, you now need the gauges. All right, now this is number 3. We've already done 1 and 2. I've done a little bit more work on this, and I'm going to put the gauges on because now you need the gauges. Not only these gauges, but this gauge. I only made it 3/4 of the way because I know very well that the back is fairly straight. So you have to have this gauge here, which at the moment shows a little bit too round. Okay, so we are there, and notice a bit too round, but I can fix that. And this more shape here, obviously. And then, of course, I'm going to try. I haven't tried the gauges here at all, so I'm going to see what I need to do. The panel's sitting very well, but it might not be dead on, so the gauges now will tell me what I need to do. So I put the gauge in and explain to you what you need to do at this point. So we've got the front, and that's number 2 right here. So here's the number 2, and there you go. Remember there was 2 round here? Now if I was to bend that or put some more shape, I'll straighten that out and then dip in the return and release it a little bit here. That'll come straight up. So you can see that the main concern at the moment would be to put a little bit more shape here. Okay, a little bit more shape there, right through. Pull down a little bit and continue on, of course, not just there. And get this nice and bulbous. Then that will be rounder, so you're going and fix the return, make the return deeper, and that will most possibly lift this up to it. If not, you stretch it a little bit there. So now we check the middle, which I think is number 6 by memory. I could be wrong. By the way, there's the numbers there. Okay, I forgot to mention, there's the numbers there. The end of the panel is here. There's my number 6. I'm going to try that. Sorry, number 5. What am I talking about? Number 5. I was wrong. It gets a bit confusing sometimes. Okay, we need to be here. So I put the gauge in there, number 5. And see what that tells me to do. So here's number 5. Well, little bit of shape there, as you can see. Same thing, bend the return a bit. Don't stretch it there because you don't want, this is straight, this is start to getting straight. So all you need to do is to dip in the return a little bit. That'll keep it straight and that'll probably come good. But it's not bad through there, a little bit of work through there. And that's how you go, that's how you do it. So you would incorporate this gauge with those gauges. You can mark them if you like. You can mark them and put the gauge on and work accordingly. By doing it this way, you get it right. Now, one point that I like to stress is that I don't know whether you can imagine this or whether you can figure it out or whether you can whatever. There's no way that you can make this panel if you were bending it. If you were bending this panel, for some stupid reason, bending it, make this panel going that way in order to wheel it, well, I don't know what you're going to get because you don't know where you're wheeling, how much you're wheeling, how much you're stretching, and on and on and on. You'd have to keep this panel this way. At all time, keep the panel straight. Don't bend it. Don't bend it into a horseshoe or whatever you want to call it. you need to work it like that. So to recapture this, it's a matter of making your pattern, recognizing where it needs to be stretched, and matter of fact, look, you can see some hammer marks there where it already stretched it. Working here will help you return. But what you need to understand, one very important thing you need to understand is that as you shaping this part here, the panel wants to push that way, yeah? If you don't release it here, you're not going to achieve anything. So by working it here and stretching it will be, remember the paper pattern here? Remember the paper pattern here there? By working it here and stretching it there, you then create the right line, because realistically we start with a fairly straight bend, or we bend it straight on the wheel, whatever you want to call it. So you shape it here, you back off through there, you stretch it a little bit here, you release it down, and that'll sit down. At the end here, you could do a little bit of stretching with the flipper on the back, just a little bit of stretching just to make it go down. And then, of course, if I put the other panel on there, I'm probably too long anyway, and I'll just show you. Here we go. You can clearly see here what I'm talking about. I've got plenty of metal there that I can cut and choose what I wanted to choose when I wanted to go. So that's the reverse curve on an E-type jag bonnet and the nose panel. Don't overwork it. Think every time you about to make a move, use your gauges, and you should get it quite right. And I'll repeat again, if you're interested in doing this exercise, even though you won't have an E-type jag, all I need to do is to send you a paper pattern with all the information, all the profiles, and a paper which I will write. I will scroll that line. You can cut it on a little bit MBF and get that. So you've got all the information you need, and you can have a bit of practice. That will help immensely in understanding reverse curves. I think we covered that up. Now, what I'm going to do also, before we do shut down, on this subject anyway, I'm going to show you another piece that I've made, and that's on the other side. Okay, that's the almost finished panel. There's not much to do on that. And did you notice that I've maintained fairly close to that line, the yellow line? And what I get the cameraman to do now, to go underneath and see the excess material that I need to turn it down. A couple of more things that I want to do on this is that when you saw the camera going underneath there, you probably didn't see it, but I know there's probably a mil or two of gap. And if you wanted to fix that, plus also perhaps some stopping marks or a little bit of touch up here and there, the best thing to do would be to go on the wheel, and I'll show you in a minute how to do it, and to finish it off. So you're finishing off any blemish. There could be here where you stop and start, and bring that around that little bit more prior to take the flange down. So let's go on the wheel now, and I'll show you from this point how to fix up to get it perfect. Okay, we're on the wheel now, and you start from the rear end and you wheel in this manner. Not lengthwise, you already done that lengthwise. You now, with very, very little pressure, almost skidding, you now just follow what you've got, like so. Very slowly, close together, proper wheel. Make sure you got an adaptive wheel to the shape, and you simply just put one track after another with no pressure. Okay, just like that. That, as I said, will straighten somewhat if it's a little bit too round. This will straighten it and also blemish out any mark or stop mark or whatever is on the panel. And because you're wheeling in this way, you then will be closing up that little bit of a gap prior to turning. And as you can see, I'm taking my time and I just keep going like so, and you can actually feel them. You can actually feel any blemish like so. Very slowly does it and close together. Tracking in this case is very important, and again I stress the point, not too much pressure, just touching, just like that. And a couple other things that I'd like you to mention is you got to be very careful in this area here, especially this area here, because when you're working on this area like this and you touch it up or you're working, this edge will drop. It's obvious, you're pumping it up here, this edge will drop. All you need to do is to reverse it, go back on the wheel and stretch it just a little bit, and that'll come back up. So, when you're in the middle of the job, you know very well that you need to wheel this by pulling down a little bit. You come up here and you pull down here, get the shape going. This edge will always drop, so you have to release it, and it'll come back up. And of course, the gauges. The profile gauges is what you need to use in order to understand and know what you need to do. Be very careful at the end because you can stretch it too much and it comes up too much. But you can also work on the return and drop it down. Again, the gauges will tell you, and you go from there. But if you follow my instruction, you should be able to get a panel that is flawless. Okay, we are at the end of this segment. And as I mentioned from the start, doing all these panels, doing one of these panels, it would take too long. But you need to understand step by step. And I think doing it this way, it probably helped a little bit better so you can see where things are going. I would have liked to have the whole panel made in one segment or two segment or three segment, but it just takes too long. And we don't want to have too many videos for one panel. But as I said before, I hope that the way I did it serves you well and you can understand. And I'll repeat, if you're interested in making one of these return or making one of these noses, just send me an email, tommasini@ambuild.net.au. And you'll see it on my website, and all I need to do is if you send me your postal address, I'll send you the profiles, I'll send you all you need, and you can do that return at home. With that, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.